I welcome you all to the fourth day of the All India Tennis Association's webinar during the lockdown. It's been a fantastic 3 days, and I'm really enjoying this. Uh, so today also we have a celebrity lined up for you all. I'm not going to ask you who it is because you can see her right on the screen. Hi, Ankita. We're very happy to have you here.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's home and safe with their.
Yes. So before we go to interact with Ankita, I would like to request Mr. Vishwadeep Akuri to come over and address the gathering.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome again to all of you. It's been absolutely fantastic the last 3 days. We are so happy that this is actually being received and appreciated so well. So, welcome to the coaches webinar brought to you by the Sports Authority of India and the All India Tennis Association. As I have two small announcements actually. One of them is, of course, regarding Ankita, who's one of our most cherished, one of the more loved and respected players. She's doing exceptionally well of late. All of you have heard about India's recent fantastic performance in the Fed Cup. India created history this year by earning the promotion to the World Group playoff for the first time ever. And thanks primarily to the stupendous effort of Ankita and her teammates who did a fantastic job. The other very important, very interesting announcement again relating to our lady superstar Sania Mirza. There is the ITF has something called the World Heart Award, a Fed Cup Heart Award, which was established in 2009, and this is essentially an award which is given for representing a country with distinction and showing exceptional courage and commitment. And we're happy to tell you that Sania Mirza has been nominated by the International Tennis Federation for this Heart Award, and there'll be a voting over the next 1 week. So I am actually making this announcement essentially to sort of inform all of you that we have to actively vote for our our own Sania so that she's actually becomes a recipient of the award. So thank you very much, Suresh, once again, and a very warm welcome again to Ankita. I think initially Narsingh would be asking some questions to you in Hindi, and after that he will move on to. And he'll be taken over by Suresh and Kanika. Thank you very much and welcome once again.
Thank you, Vishwadeep. That was important information that you need to share. We want our player to receive the award for sure. And who knows, the next recipient might be Ankita herself.
That's exactly why I mentioned it, because it's something that we are definitely looking forward from Ankita in the years to come.
And to talk about today's proceedings, we're going to have a chat with Ankita. She's right there. Like Vishwadeep said, we're going to have there's been a lot of requests for interactions in Hindi. We're going to do that in the first few minutes with Narsingh. And then we will try to get questions from the candidates. I think you can start typing it in the Q&A, and then I'll pick out the good ones and I'll ask Ankita those questions. And I would request you all to try to keep it towards the mental aspect of the game rather than asking questions that you can just Google and find out, if you know what I mean. So something that you can't get information from outside, you have to get it from the source herself. Please try and ask those questions. And I'll pick out those questions and I'll ask her. And as you all know, today's presentation is going to be by Janaki and on mental training in tennis. As you all know, mental training or the mental aspect is 95% as you go higher up. That's what everybody believes in. It's so important. And I think, in my opinion, when I started to play or when I started to teach tennis, I used to look at the psychological aspect as a separate thing that we had to do off the court. But then as as the years passed by, the realization struck you that it has to be integrated in every session, every communication that you have with your player. And unless we have a reasonably good understanding of the psychological aspects, you won't be able to satisfy these things. you want to have a mentally tough player, then the coach needs to understand the mental aspect, at least at a reasonable level. So I think this presentation by John can give a lot of light in that. And right now we can go with Narsing. Are you there? You can switch on your video. So as you all know, we don't need to introduce Ankita. Everybody knows her. She's very popular. She's the #1 player in India. And recently they had this fantastic Fed Cup performance, which is for the first time, I think. And she is ranked, I think, 160 something in the world.
Yeah.
And she's looking to move up. And we hope she'll get into the top 100, which will be her next target, probably. Yeah. How much time have you set for this goal?
It was that, by the end of this year, I would want to move up to top 100. And actually, if you see, the year started on the right note. And
Right.
I felt
Yes.
that because I had back-to-back wins starting
Yes.
from December, actually, in India itself, in Solapur. And I felt that it was peaking, and I was really looking forward to the Grand Slams as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I saw you in Nonthaburi in Bangkok.
Yes, sir.
What is it? It was in March or something like that. February.
No,
or
it
March.
was just the end of Jan.
End of Jan. Okay, and you won the title there, 25K title, and then you backed it up with another title in India. So great going for the year, and I'm sure you're going to get there very soon. So over to you,
Thank
Narsing. Narsing can take over and.
Thanks, Suresh. Thank you very much, Suresh. Good morning, everyone, and welcome again for the same we are doing the last previous days. काफी हद तक हम लोगों ने कोशिश करी है कि आपको नए नए प्लेयरों से तारुफ करवाएं, और आज हमने अंकिता को निमंत्रण किया यहाँ पर. अंकिता, गुड मॉर्निंग.
Good morning, sir. Namaste.
नमस्ते. सबसे पहली चीज कि मैं अंकिता को काफी टाइम से जानता हूँ, और इनके कोच हेमंत बिंद्रे जो मेरे बहुत अच्छे दोस्त हैं, और अब मुझे लगता है कि आपके कोच जो हैं आपसे ज्यादा प्रोत्साहित हो रहे हैं अपना वेट लूज करने के लिए. पहली चीज तो मैं देख रहा था कि काफी उसने वजन कम किया, और नाउ ही वांट्स टू कम बैक ऑन द सेम ऑन द टेनिस जैसे पहले चल रहे थे, और आपके साथ काफी समय से लगे हुए हैं हेमंत बिंद्रे. सबसे पहली चीज अंकिता, मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि आपकी जो रैंकिंग है अभी ऑलमोस्ट 160 के आसपास है,
जी सर.
और आपने डेफिनेटली फर्स्ट 100 के अंदर आना है. ये एक आपका गोल होगा शुरू का कि आप कैसे फर्स्ट 100 के अंदर आए. तो आपके जो प्लान होंगे इनिशियली, डेफिनेटली यस, विद यू हैव ऑलवेज डिजाइन विद योर हेमंत बिंद्रे एंड योर टीम जो एक्ट करती है. तो थोड़ा सा बताएं इसके बारे में कि आपका प्लान कैसा है.
मुझे लगता है कि टॉप 100 के लिए फर्स्टली मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि एक प्रोसेस है ये. हम बहुत बार भूल जाते हैं कि ये एक प्रोसेस है और रिजल्ट्स इमीडिएटली नहीं आने वाले हैं. डेफिनेटली अपने कोचेस और ट्रेनर के साथ बैठ के हम एक प्लान बनाते हैं, और कुछ टूर्नामेंट्स हमने जैसे प्लान किए वैसे जाने वाले हैं. कुछ टूर्नामेंट्स देयर आर गोइंग टू बी सम चेंजेस, बट सबसे पहले तो ये एक प्रोसेस है. और इसमें मुझे लगता है टॉप लेवल पे पहुंचने के लिए, या टॉप एक वंस यू रीच टॉप 200, उसके बाद मेंटल एस्पेक्ट, फिजिकल तो है ही. हम सब जानते हैं कि टेनिस में या कोई भी चीज में डे बाय डे इम्प्रूवमेंट चाहिए. तो आई एम श्योर के टेनिस का और फिटनेस का इम्प्रूवमेंट तो हम देख ही रहे हैं डे बाय डे करने के लिए. लेकिन मेंटल एक एस्पेक्ट है जो मुझे लगता है जूनियर से ही स्टार्ट कर देना चाहिए. बिकॉज वो जूनियर से जब हम सीनियर्स में आते हैं, वुमेन्स या मेंस में आते हैं, वो जो ट्रांजिशन पीरियड होता है, मेरे हिसाब से बहुत प्लेयर्स उधर मतलब छोड़ देते हैं या तो स्पोर्ट, और दे चूज समथिंग एल्स. सो आई फील दैट अगर मेंटल एस्पेक्ट हम बहुत ही जल्दी एज से स्टार्ट करेंगे, सो इट विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प द प्लेयर्स, because you are also practicing that mental aspect which is on court, off court in your practice. And जैसे ही आप अपना आप रैंकिंग्स में इम्प्रूव होते जाएंगे, डे बाय डे इम्प्रूव होते जाएंगे गेम पे। तो एक्चुअली जब वो टाइम आएगा व्हेन मेंटल टेस्ट होगा आपका, इट विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प यू स्टार्टिंग इफ यू स्टार्ट इट एट अ यंग एज।
आपने बड़ा
और
अच्छा बोला अंकिता कि जो जूनियर से लोग कई बार छोड़ देते हैं,
जी
वो एक ट्रांजैक्शन जब होती है, ट्रांजैक्शन प्लेयर से जूनियर से आपको सीनियर में जाने के लिए, जो हिंदुस्तान में या भारत में हमारे एज वी से ऑलवेज एज रोहन आल्सो सेड यस्टरडे, स्किल वाइज वी आर द वेरी टॉप पीपल इन
yes.
वर्ल्ड वाइड। और हम लोग जब वहाँ जब जूनियर जाते हैं, आपने भी अपने कैरियर में देखा होगा कि जूनियर से सीनियर में आने के लिए उस समय कितनी स्ट्रगल करनी पड़ती है और कितनी मेहनत करनी पड़ती है। एज यू सेड के 200 के अंदर में आने के बाद फिर वो 100 में आना इतना आसान नहीं है, एक प्रोसेस है। तो वो थोड़ा सा बताएं आपकी, वो आपने जो किया उस टाइम पर, थोड़ा उसके बारे में बताएं।
मैं ये कहूंगी कि उस टाइम पे बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट रोल रहा है डेफिनेटली कोच का और पेरेंट्स का, बिकॉज दैट इज द फेज व्हेन यू विल हैव अ लॉट ऑफ फेलियर्स। आप बहुत मैचेस हारेंगे। मेरा करीबन 2 से 3 साल थे जब मैंने वो जो ट्रांजिशन पीरियड था मेरा वुमेन्स में आने का, उसमें मैंने काफी मैचेस हारे। बट एंड डेफिनेटली एज अ प्लेयर आप निराश होंगे, बट इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज थी डिसिप्लिन। डिसिप्लिन रहना, डिसिप्लिन होना, क्योंकि आप जब डिसिप्लिन रहेंगे रिगार्डलेस ऑफ द रिजल्ट, आप जीते या हारे, आप अगले दिन उठ के वो सेम चीजें फॉलो करेंगे, सेम रूटीन फॉलो करेंगे। वो रूटीन आपके हारने या जीतने से चेंज नहीं होना चाहिए। जिस दिन प्लेयर हार और जीत एक सेम लेवल में लेने लगेगा, सेम लेवल में ट्रीट करेगा, तो उस दिन प्लेयर आगे बढ़ेगा। पेरेंट्स का बहुत सपोर्ट चाहिए उस टाइम में, और कोचेस का बिलीफ और सपोर्ट बहुत चाहिए मुझे लगता है, बिकॉज उस टाइम में कभी कभी हो सकता है प्लेयर्स कॉन्फिडेंस लूज कर जाए या फेथ अपने आप में कम हो जाए, लेकिन क्योंकि कोच का फेथ रहा, कोच का सपोर्ट रहा, एंड वी केप्ट डूइंग, जो करना चाहिए, जैसे कि मैंने कहा डिसिप्लिन होके जो करना चाहिए वो करते गए, तो उससे आप डेफिनेटली वो फेज पास कर जाएंगे। और चैलेंजेस तो आने वाले ही हैं, आप चाहे वर्ल्ड नंबर 1 हो या आप 200 रैंक्ड हो। और पेरेंट्स का भी काफी सपोर्ट रहा है। पेरेंट्स मैंने देखा है कि वो मतलब एक टूर्नामेंट जीत गया प्लेयर, तो नेक्स्ट टूर्नामेंट भी वो एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि उसके बाद वो जीतते ही रहेंगे। बट स्पोर्ट्स एक दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स के एक दिन कुछ होता है और अगले दिन इट्स अ न्यू प्लेयर, इट्स अ डिफरेंट प्लेयर। या
सो मैं एक और चीज आपसे इसी बारे में बात करना, जैसे आपने कहा पेरेंट्स का भी काफी वो योगदान होता है। एक चीज आपने अक्सर देखी होगी, या मैं आपके माध्यम से ही सुनना मांगता हूँ कि प्रेशर जो एक वर्ड है वो अक्सर रहता है प्लेयर के ऊपर, चाहे वो कोच का प्रेशर है या पेरेंट का प्रेशर है या ट्रेनिंग का प्रेशर है या किसी भी चीज का है। तो उस टाइम जब आप थोड़ा प्रेशर में होती है तो उस चीज को कैसे निकालते हैं? क्योंकि आपने, मैंने देखा है आपको अक्सर कि आप प्रेशर लेकर नहीं खेलती, कभी प्रेशर में होती है तो ट्राई करती है कि अपने आप को कैसे मोटिवेट करके वापस निकले उस जगह से, एंड यू ऑलवेज शोन वेरी वेल इन दैट टाइम। तो उस समय आपको क्या लगता है कि मैं प्रेशर रिलीज करूं यहाँ से और वापस मैच में रहूं?
सर मेरे एक्सपीरियंस से मैं कहूंगी कि 2-3 चीजें हैं जो मैं किया करती थी या करती हूँ, जो हेल्प करता है प्रेशर सिचुएशंस में। पहले तो हमें हर चैलेंज को या हर प्रेशर सिचुएशन को, जैसे कि आपने कहा, एक ग्रो होने का अपॉर्चुनिटी, बेटर होने का अपॉर्चुनिटी लेना चाहिए। तो जब हम उस डायरेक्शन में सोचते हैं तो ऑलरेडी मतलब वी स्टार्ट टू थिंक एंड वी स्टार्ट टू हैव अ प्लान। हम नेगेटिव साइड पे नहीं जाते कि ये क्यों हो गया, पहले मैंने ऐसे किया होता तो मैं ये सिचुएशन में नहीं आती। तो पहले तो ये हो गया कि उसको ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी लेनी चाहिए, तो यू आर गोइंग इन द राइट डायरेक्शन, और उसके बाद आप प्लान करेंगे कि कैसे सिचुएशन से हैंडल करना है, तो आपका ध्यान उस तरफ पे जाएगा। और जैसे पहले मैंने पॉइंट मेंशन किया, डिसिप्लिन भी एक और चीज है जो प्रेशर मोमेंट्स में हेल्प करती है। क्योंकि आप कोई भी, फॉर एग्जांपल आप कोर्ट में हैं, मैच में हैं, और आप मान लीजिए जीत रहे हैं बट देन सडनली अपोनेंट कम्स बैक या कुछ स्ट्रेटेजी चेंज हुई, कुछ चेंज हो गया सिचुएशन में जो आपके गेम को इफेक्ट कर रहा है. फॉर एग्जांपल रेन ब्रेक हो गया और फिर अपोनेंट स्टार्ट्स कमिंग बैक. लेकिन अगर आपका डिसिप्लिन है, आप जो फॉलो कर रहे हैं वो थ्रू आउट द मैच आप फॉलो करेंगे, तो आपका ध्यान इस पे रहेगा कि मुझे क्या करना है, rather than के अपोनेंट कम बैक कर रहा है या स्कोर में डाउन हूँ अभी. और तीसरी चीज ये होगी सेल्फ टॉक करना. मुझे लगता है जब हम सेल्फ टॉक करते हैं, जब हम पॉजिटिव एफर्मेशंस देते हैं अपने आप को, तो वी एक्चुअली स्टॉप जो ऑल द नेगेटिव थॉट्स के जो चेन होते हैं उसको हम ब्रेक करते आने से रोकते हैं. और पॉजिटिव एफर्मेशन they keep repeating के okay for example मुझे I have to be faster in my on with my legs for example. तो आप वो इंफॉर्मेशन अपने माइंड में देते हैं और अपनी बॉडी में देते हैं, जिससे फिर ये डेफिनेटली मेरा एक्सपीरियंस रहा है कि वो चीज चेंज होती है कोर्ट पे. So I would say these 3 points.
बहुत सही कहा आपने. और मेरा आखिरी क्वेश्चन अंकिता आपसे है कि आपके पास काफी मुश्किलात आई होंगी इस लेवल पर पहुंचने के लिए, स्पेशली फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स जब आपकी शुरू होती हैं, जब आपका मैचेस शुरू होते हैं, आप क्योंकि आप हार रहे हैं और आपको हर जगह ट्रैवलिंग करनी है और हर जगह अपने एक्सपेंसेस को खुद ही बेयर करना है. उस समय आपने जो चाहा था कि मुझे कोई स्पॉन्सर मिले या मेरे को कोई सपोर्ट करे, और अब तो खैर आपके पास थोड़ा बहुत सपोर्ट है, लेकिन उस समय आपको क्या दिक्कतें आई थी? क्योंकि वी वांटेड टू शेयर विद दिस और लोगों को पता लगे कि कैसे मैनेज करना चाहिए.
सर डेफिनेटली फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स थी, बिकॉज टेनिस हम सब जानते हैं एक्सपेंसिव स्पोर्ट है, एंड साल में 25 से 30 हफ्ते ट्रैवल करना इज नॉट एन इजी थिंग. बट आई एम ग्रेटफुल कि मुझे राइट मोमेंट पे स्पॉन्सर्स का सपोर्ट मिल गया. और मैं ये भी कहूँगी कि मेरे पेरेंट्स, मेरी फैमिली, मेरी मॉम, मतलब दे केप्ट ट्राइंग, वो जुटे रहे, उन्होंने भी कभी हार नहीं मानी, दे केप्ट होप. तो उसमें पहली चीज ये थी कि आई स्टार्टेड, मैं अकेले ट्रैवल करती थी सिंस आई वाज 14 साल की थी, तब से इंडिया में भी और अब्रॉड में भी. और तब बहुत ऐसा लगता था कि मतलब काश मेरे पेरेंट्स या कोच, मतलब एटलीस्ट पेरेंट्स, बिकॉज अगर आप देखेंगे 14 साल का बच्चा, तो इंडियन स्पेशली, तो दे आर वेरी इनोसेंट और इतना कुछ आइडिया नहीं होता है कि हाउ एवरीथिंग वर्क्स. बट मुझे लगता है कहीं ना कहीं वो चीज कि मैं अकेले ट्रैवल किया, मैंने वो चीज ने मुझे हेल्प किया है ऑन कोर्ट भी ऑफ कोर्ट भी एज अ प्लेयर टू ग्रो. और जैसे कि मैंने पहले मेंशन किया कि चैलेंजेस होते हैं, बिकॉज वो आपको हेल्प करते हैं एक बेटर एथलीट, एक बेटर इंसान बनने में. तो आई थिंक वो चीज ने डेफिनेटली मुझे हेल्प किया है मेरे टेनिस में.
बहुत सही जवाब दिया आपने कि एक अच्छा एथलीट, अच्छा प्लेयर बनने के लिए बहुत सारी चीजें करनी पड़ती है. और साथ ही आपने ये जो कहा कि एक मेरे को इस सफर में काफी लोगों ने हेल्प भी करी है, आपके संग टीम आपकी हमेशा होती है और वो सब चीजें आपकी करती हैं. मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि आपने आखिर में जो शब्द कहे कि मेरे को वो सपोर्ट चाहिए थी, सही समय पे मिली. यानी कि हमेशा हम प्लेयरों को कहते हैं कि आपका जो ट्रांजेक्शन अंडर 14 से शुरू होता है और अंडर 18 तक, वो आपका एक बिगनिंग पीरियड है, जस्ट टू स्टार्ट बेसिक सीखने का. असली लाइफ जो शुरू होती है प्लेयर की स्टार्ट आफ्टर 18, यानी कि हिंदुस्तान के लोग जितने भी हैं. तो यानी कि आपको कैरियर जो है, एज यस्टरडे भोपन आल्सो सेड कि जो अपने युकी ने भी 2 दिन पहले बोला था कि लाइफ बहुत शॉर्ट है प्लेयर की, और उसमें ही हम काम करते हैं सारे. जितनी मेहनत करनी होती है, एज आई नो आपने सुबह उठ करके रात तक कितना मेहनत करनी होती है. आई नो योर और शेड्यूल आल्सो, so you always doing a good job in this with the help of all your team, like Hemant is leading your team. So thank you very much, Kita. You've given the very good answer.
Thank you.
Or Suresh, now you can take over.
Okay. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Ankita, for this excellent answers. Like, I was listening in for the little Hindi that I know. You're talking about. So who taught you? Who taught you these things, these aspects? To do the mental aspects between points, or
One is definitely so that you learn from your experience from your matches. Here I would like to add this point that everything has to be in balance. You cannot just win and move ahead, move further. I really feel that uh, whether you call it failure or losing matches is a very important part, because I have learned when I've lost. Because when you lose a match, you start thinking, you ask your coach, you discuss it with your parents, or you share it with your coach, and you start thinking, you have that process where you ask yourself, what was the thing that I did right and where I went wrong. So I think that is an important part. Of course, that's also the learning part. And like I mentioned about the transition period, that's when I took help of a sports psychologist, and I started mental training with her, and she would teach me exercises or drills that I can use on court. Another thing I would say is, if we can help advise, not advise, but if we can tell our athletes to start meditating from a young age, I feel that really helps. Because I've done I did 2-3 courses, and one of the courses was to do with yoga and meditation. And I learned that most of us, like not the younger ones but also adults, we are not aware. So now this word, it's self awareness, being aware. You don't real you probably know the word, but you don't realize when you actually go through that experience or read about it or have that knowledge. So I would say that meditating, like I said, mental training also helps, and we can add that aspect also, so that players, for example, I started at when I was 18 or 20. If required, we can start that in moderation from an early age. But I would say meditation, kids can start that from 8 or 10 years, and it helps you first to be self-aware, and it helps you most importantly to be aware of your breath. And I think when you be aware with your breath, uh, what happens actually is everything slows down, and your mind is so clear that it's tough to explain. But once you feel it, once you experience it, you will see the difference, and you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, Ankit. This was going to be my next question, but just answered everything that I wanted to.
Sorry.
No, asking the question is not important. Your answer is what is important. I didn't expect someone like you, who's only 27 years old, to make such profound statements as, the awareness. We know the word, but we don't know what it actually means. And this awareness comes only when you do meditation repeatedly over a period of time. And then most important thing is you have a certain awareness of this awareness. And as you go in the next few years, you'll see that it is getting deeper and deeper.
And deeper.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the constant practice, just like your tennis, that also needs constant practice, and you get better and better at it. You should keep at it. Yeah, very good.
Thank you,
and you must be having a tough time with lockdown. You love to get onto the court and hit tennis balls. I've never seen you sit outside it. So what do you do?
Never. Like I said, so I'm also trying to take positives from this situation. I know it's a terrible thing that's going on, but I feel we as athletes, we always try to see the positive in everything, and that's what keeps us going. And when, like, from a normal public point of view, I think if we can maintain that and keep positive, we can help others as well to feel positive. Because actually, everyone's at home, and so many people are staying together, and there are such situations where people are not even getting daily meals. So it's you can't tell them to be positive. But Yes, so I'm definitely trying to do my bit, and what I'm doing at home currently is, like I mentioned, discipline is everything, and it's always been the top priority for me. And I have my routine where I wake up in the morning, I start with meditation, I do my exercises, and then the rest of the day I give time to either learning new skills, reading about new topics which I've not done before, because we always traveling and playing matches. And yes, of course, spending time with family, I think that's also important, considering how much we travel, 25 to 30 weeks in a year. So I know that we're not gonna get this chance again. uh, uh, Hopefully with God's grace everything is going to be fine soon, and I'm making the best use of this time. So also, so that once I'm trying to be as fit as I can in these circumstances, whatever is available at home, I'm doing everything inside my house, so that once every things open up, and I'm at least fitter than I was before.
Oh, that's good. So Ankita becoming fitter than what she was is something. We always thought you're a very fit player. So where is home? Home is in Pune or is in Gujarat?
Originally, I'm
Yeah.
from Ahmedabad, sir, born and brought up in Ahmedabad, and
Yeah.
that's where I started. But currently, I'm in Pune because I train in Pune.
Yeah.
And I came back from Fed Cup Dubai to train for 3-4 days, and I was supposed to fly to Australia. Yeah, so I was in
Okay.
Pune.
So
I'm in
you
Pune.
shifted to Pune now. Okay. There is some
Yes, I
little
keep going back
disturbance
to
in the
America.
internet. Okay. Okay. I
Hello?
have a couple of nice questions. One
Sure, sir.
from Hi Janki. We'll be done in another 2-3 minutes for you. Hi Janki, can you hear us? Okay. We have a couple of nice questions. One is from Preetham. She's asking, Indian society always has been against girls to take up sports. Did Ankita ever face such hurdle, and how did she overcome it?
I can exactly understand what she's talking about, but I would say that thankfully I was not there back then. When I started, I got all the support from my family, and from whether it's my coaches or whether it's my relatives or my society where I was brought up. I would say I definitely got a lot of support, but I can relate to what she's saying. And I would just say that, like I mentioned earlier, we are definitely gonna have challenges. And I can also think from a point of view where, like, being a female coach, because we now probably it's growing and we are getting more female coaches. And so I can understand that what she feels or what she's trying to say. But I will just say that it's changing, and with female athletes coming up not only in tennis but other sports as well, I think this is also changing, and it'll get better.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ankita. We ran out of time. We would love to sit here and talk to you for another half an hour, 1 hour. I'm sure the coaches will also love that. But we have Dr. Janki here waiting for us. So I promise that we
Sure,
will
sir.
give the floor to her at 10:30. So we
Absolutely.
want to take questions today for sure, and we want to start the questions by 11:30. So that's right. And thanks a lot,
Great.
and thanks a lot for sharing all that information. And it's amazing how
Thank you,
all
sir.
your players, you come out and you're willing to give out all the, we don't call it secrets, but the truths behind you becoming such champions. And this is amazing. A lot of I don't know, a lot of people have this feeling that once somebody becomes to the top, they don't want to share. It's proved that's not true. All of you guys, you came here, you spoke your heart out. Honestly, you were sharing all the information that you had. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you
all
for
the coaches
having
are
me.
here.
And I would just want to say this one thing lastly. I believe in that, and I've also learned it lately that I don't believe like, having secrets. I'm always happy to help, ready to help, because I know sports is a thing, or also generally in life, one day you're somewhere and next day you don't know where you are. And definitely helping goes a long way. And only together, if we come together like this, we are gonna promote tennis, promote sports in India and any other field. But it's important that we share. I think sharing is very important, and lifting others up and helping them to go further. That's what I believe in. Thank
Amazing
you.
maturity, Ankita. Amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Hi, Himanshu. Can you add Balachandran Maniket also onto the panel, please? Hi, Janki. You're in mute. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi, sir. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, we extend a warm welcome to you on behalf of all the coaches here, and we are really, really looking forward to this.
Yes,
and from the first day, the coaches have been asking for the mental aspects. We were doing other training, and then they were asking for, can we have some mentals? Can we have some mental aspects? And you're here today.
I'm really looking forward.
Yeah, that's it. It was my presentation today, but then because you came in and Balu said, you're coming in, we thought
thank you.
Way better than everybody is seeing us as tutors. They're seeing us in courses. They listen to us in workshops.
Yes.
We would like to have fresh faces and, new information coming in.
Thank you.
And Balu is here. Hi, Balu.
Hi, Suresh. How are
Okay,
you?
The floor is yours. You take over from here.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to everyone. Namaste. And good morning, Janki.
Good morning, sir.
I'll introduce you to the attendees before we proceed. Today's webinar is going to be on importance and integration of sports psychology. And to talk about that, the person you already know is Dr. Janki, but let me give you a brief background of who she is, what she is. She was a tennis player, and then, she loved playing volleyball, so she played volleyball as well up to state level. Currently, she's a throwball player. She's an active player even now. And having played competitive sport, both the team and the individual games, she understands the demands that a sport involves. So decided to study sports psychology, and she went to Middlesex University in UK. After graduation, the passion got her in, and she decided to pursue it. And she went on to complete her doctorate in sports science and psychology from Staffordshire University in UK. After her studies and having gained the knowledge, she decided that she wanted to help the Indian athletes. So she came back to India and started helping out. It's been 10 years, and in these 10 years, she has worked at National Cricket Academy with the cricketers, Olympic Gold Quest with our Olympic medal prospect athletes, Prakash Padukone Academy with badminton players, and Virat Kohli Foundation, where she works with, which interests us all, Sumit Nagal, Karman Kaur, and SK Mukund, the tennis players, the young tennis players we have now. So to help us coaches understand, sorry, I will rephrase it, be aware, because Ankita and Suresh just mentioned, should be aware. So yeah, to ask coaches, be aware of the mental aspects of tennis. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Dr. Janki Rajapurkar Diol. Janki, over to you.
Thank you, Balu sir. Firstly, thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited and looking forward to speaking about how mental training can be used in tennis. And I would also like to thank Aida and Sai for doing this. I'm just going to share my screen and then I will begin. So I think one of the things that I would like to say first is that, I know this is a one-way communication where I'm talking to y'all. However, while we go through the presentation, I'm going to ask y'all some questions, and I would just like you to think about it in your mind as we progress. Okay, so like Balu sir just said, what we're going to talk about is the importance of sports psychology in tennis. And then we're going to speak about, or I'm going to try and make you a little more aware about, how is it that mental training can be integrated in everyday practice, so that players are really able to do their mental training on a regular basis. I think as of now, there is a perception that, you go to a sports psychologist, you do a session, and all of that happens. But sports psychology, like Ankita just mentioned, that it's a process. It is something that needs to be done every day. Whether you use Indian techniques such as yoga, meditation, or whether you use proper Western mental training, regardless of what style, every athlete prefers something different. Regardless of what you're doing, it is something to be done with discipline and every day, just like Ankita spoke to us right now. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to, tell you all, and I'm sure you all also know that a lot of elite players speak about how mental, what the role of the mental aspect in tennis is. So, we have Serena Williams here talking about the fact that tennis is mostly mental. Djokovic has, emphasized about how, he feels that at the highest level, skill-wise, everything's almost the same. Everyone's strong in their technique and their skill, but it is the mental aspect that is making the difference at that stage. We've had Ankita speak for the last half an hour about how even while transiting from the junior circuit to the seniors, how the mental aspect becomes very, very important. We've had Jimmy Connor say the famous quote which says, tennis is 90% mental. So if we have so many players understanding and now becoming aware that tennis is mental, why is it neglected, or why is it not given so much attention to at the junior level, like Ankita also just said? So let's try to understand why that's happening or why that happens. Okay, so you all can see your beautiful tree on the screen. Now I want you all to put your thinking caps on and try and think a little bit while I'm talking on this slide. Okay, you all can see a beautiful tree on this slide. I want you to think about what is it that you can see on the screen. Okay, I'm sure all of you all the first thing that maybe comes to your mind is the big tree. Okay, then maybe you can see the shining sun through the tree. Okay, you can see the beautiful grass, the soil. You can maybe see the background and the landscape at the back. You can see some trees. When I've done this, coaches have also said that, oh, I can see a fence at the back. I can see a swing there. So I'm sure you all have observed all these things. One thing that most of us miss out on is the air or the atmosphere that the tree is growing in. The reason why we neglect it, or the reason why you don't say it, is because it's not seen. Okay, it's not observable. It's only something that is felt or experienced when you're there. Okay, so I would like you all to think about this tree as an athlete or as a tennis player. Okay, the soil as the nutrition or the hydration that the player needs while playing. The sun as the most important thing, which is the skill. So the tree needs all of this, the athlete needs all of this, the player needs all of this. But just like the tree needs the beautiful or the fresh air to grow, the athlete also needs the mind to grow and to perform to his best. Just like we ignored or we neglected the atmosphere or the air, okay, because you can't see it, okay, the mind also gets neglected because you can't see it. Okay, you can't see how confident a player is feeling. You can't see how motivated the player is. You can only feel it. The player can only feel it, and only when the player feels it is when a coach can feel it. So it's all based on what happens in the mind. Okay, all these aspects are something that are only felt, and they are not observable very easily. For example, when you get onto the court and when you see a child play for 3-4 years together, you can see that the skill is getting better. You can see that he can hit better forehands. His serve has improved. When a player starts doing fitness, you can tell that the player is looking fitter, he's moving faster on the court, he has more upper body strength. So all the other things are much more easily observable, whereas what is happening in the mind is not so observable. And that is the main reason why mental training, or why the importance of the mind, is neglected, especially at the junior level. And what we're hoping to do today, and what I'm hoping to do today, is try and change that, and also to help you understand that mental training is actually very easy and very simple. The key thing about sports psychology or mental training is that it's based on quality. So even at the highest level, okay, athletes or players, even tennis players, are doing mental training only for 10 to 15 minutes a day, and that is all that is required. You know, like Ankita also said that she gets up and she does her meditation. I'm sure her meditation is not more than 10 minutes. So it's about the quality and not the quantity. You don't need to, a player does not need to spend, 1 hour a day like he needs to spend on his fitness or skills training. It's a very limited time, but high quality time is what is required. So as we go ahead, I'm going to try and make it really simple for you all and understand how mental training can really be done in a very easy way. So let's move ahead. So what are we hoping to do today? Really understand what the goal of sports psychology is. How is it that it is really going to help tennis players? Why is it so important at the junior level, and also as you transit into the senior level? And then I'm going to actually provide you all a simple mental training routine that you all can learn today and get it done from your players on an everyday basis. And I'm going to talk to you all about how these mental routines can be done before a match or before a practice, during a match, and what is it that a player can do post-match. Okay. I have a quote up there. I've just thought of this, and I feel like from my experience of having played tennis, and that's actually one of the key reasons why, I even chose to go ahead and do sports psychology, and I will talk about it a little further. But I feel tennis is like a game of chess. The amount of mind that you need to put in it while you're playing a match or a tournament is immensely high. Okay, the only difference is that you're on your feet and you're with a racket, but it's almost like a game of chess while you're playing with an opponent. And that's why the role of the mind becomes very, very important in a game like tennis. So moving ahead, what is sports psychology really? The first thing is that sports psychology helps players overcome mental hurdles. Now, again, I want you all to put your thinking cap on. I'm sure a lot of y'all must have played the sport as a player before you got on to becoming a coach. Now, I want you to think about this and see whether you're able to relate to this. Okay. A lot of players, and that includes me myself also when I played. Okay. Before you enter the court on a day of a crucial match, have you felt your heart beating faster when you play? The answer is probably yes. Your heart beats faster. Your legs feel stiff. Your hands may feel sweaty. You may feel like you just can't think. You go blank. A lot of players feel, or when you must have been playing, a lot of players feel pressure while playing lower ranked opponents, or if they are higher seeded and they're playing lower ranked opponents, they feel the pressure because they feel that, oh, I'm higher ranked, that means I must win. And a lot of times these players lose at these times, and that's because of this mental hurdle. Or players are unable to handle crucial situations. So whether it's match point, or whether they're in a situation where it's add out, or the first match in a big tournament, these can be mental blocks or hurdles for a lot of players. Playing rivals, expectations is also what Ankita spoke about. Can be really tough and challenging. Frustration, anger. We see so many young tennis players throwing their rackets, unfortunately banging their rackets. And what all of this leads to is that these players are not able to play to their best potential. These things are stopping them from playing their best. So mental training or sports psychology helps tennis players overcome these mental hurdles. So that's the first role or the goal of sports psychology or mental training, to help these players overcome these mental hurdles that we all face. And these mental hurdles can also keep changing when you're a junior, when you're around 17, 18, like Ankita spoke about, as you go on to the senior circuit. And also, like she said, it's not only about what happens on court, it's also about what happens off court. She was talking about how when she was 14, she traveled alone. And yes, that did help her. But I'm sure at that time, if she had the support, it would have been much easier for her. So it's not only on court things, but it's also off court things. Pressure from parents, being able to manage academics and studies. How much focus do you give both of them when you want to play professionally? All of these, when a child is, between the age of 12 to 17, are very, very challenging. And a sports psychologist can appropriately help a player with these situations. So that's the first goal of sports psychology. What is the second thing? I would again like you all to look at the screen. There are two images. The middle image that you can see where a little boy is jumping on the trampoline and he's putting his hand up. So yes, he's jumping on the trampoline and he's trying to jump as high as possible. On the picture towards the extreme right, you can see that again there is a boy on the trampoline, but he's wearing a harness. And the harness is helping him jump even higher than what he can. So mental training, I would say, is like the harness. It helps you do even better than what you can. So it's not time. So many players speak about consistency. And I think, Ankita said it very well, that being disciplined about all the things that you need to do, whether it's your technical training, going onto the court and, spending hours there, whether it's your physical training, looking after your nutrition, your food, your diet, hydration, and your mental training. All of these things need to be done on a regular basis, on an everyday basis, with just equal amount of discipline. And that is the only key to consistency. So mental training is a very important part, is a harness, is a support for players to do better and better. And, I'm probably one of the first sports psychologists in the country. And, now we have a handful of them, which is great. But I always, I've started thinking that the future of sports psychology or mental training for tennis players is not in our hands. It is in your hands as coaches, because you are the player's first point of contact. If you believe in the player training mentally, that is when the player is going to do it. So I think the future of mental training and players understanding its importance and doing it with discipline is completely in your hands. And I think the future of how mentally tough tennis players we have in the country, is the ball is in your court. So, the point of doing this for me today is also to help you understand its importance, like I said earlier. So moving on, okay, again, a quick question for y'all. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but I want y'all to try and identify the chubby little boy on the left, and the boy on the right who's abusing the racket, who's kicking the racket. So if you all know, great. If not, I'm going to tell you all. The chubby little guy on the left is Nick Kyrgios. The boy on the right who's actually kicking that racket is Roger Federer. Now, please understand that in this, while I'm talking to you all, I'm giving you all some extreme examples so that you all understand a little more about mental training. So what happens when they grow up? Okay, so we see little Nick, young, chubby Nick on the left, and Roger Federer on the right. So what has happened to them when they have grown up? Okay, before going there, I would actually like to show you all a clip of Roger Federer when he was young. And this is just to show how a mind can be transformed. So I'm just going to play the clip for you all, and it's a short clip, I've cut it. So I want you all to just watch this for a minute or two.
Roger was more like a stroppy Minnie McEnroe than the always composed Mr. Cool we know today. His parents were not impressed.
On court, it didn't go his way. Then, of course, he did lose his temper and occasionally throw the racket or even cried. Or he was highly upset when he did lose a match. He used to, he could cry for half an hour after a match, which was disturbing for parents, and also behaviour on court. And we were never angry at Roger if he lost a match, but we were really always angry at him because of his behaviour.
He was horrible sometimes. He was throwing the racket to the net or to the back and swearing on the court. Sometimes we felt really ashamed
He learned the hard way.
Okay, so like you all saw in the video, and I'm sure most of y'all are even aware that he was known to have a hot head when he was young. And they in this video they actually compared him to someone like John McEnroe, who we also know for throwing tantrums, and or if we also know about Nick Kyrgios. And it doesn't mean that athletes who do not have the appropriate emotional control do not succeed. They can do very well, but they don't achieve their potential. Recently I read about an interview where John McEnroe actually spoke about, how he was and what he felt about it after he retired. And he said that, if I would have been much better mentally, I think I could have done even better what I did. So mental training, so it does not mean that, these athletes, there's nothing mentally tough about them. Yes, they can be mentally strong, even with, lack of emotional control, or, when we see such behaviors. But are they reaching their potential? Are they able to do their best? The answer from athletes themselves or these players themselves is a no. And that is why training the mind and, understanding how to manage your emotions while on court becomes very, very important. So let's look at what happens when they grow up. Okay, so we can see that, Nick Kyrgios clearly transformed himself physically. He was a chubby kid. He's, one of the most fittest athletes that I think we can see. But what Roger Federer did was he transformed himself mentally. And what he says is that his mental toughness is one of the proudest things today. And that must have been something for him to change from what he was and, what he is today. And in the next, couple of minutes, I'm going to talk to you all a little more about what he did actually at that time. But before we go ahead, I have another clip where Roger Federer actually talks about, how he handles pressure, how he trained himself mentally, and then we will go and speak a little more about it. So just another short video for you all from Roger Federer.
Well, mindset was completely different. I was trying to make the breakthrough onto the tour. Now it's about maintaining a certain fitness level, staying motivated. I have different challenges than when I was younger. When I was younger, everything was new. It's like a kid in the candy store. It was great or terrible because I'd be horribly tired from jet lag, or I'd be totally unmotivated on some days. But I overcame these difficult times at times. It wasn't always difficult, it was good also, and realized that mental toughness and mental strength is one of the most important key factors for a successful career, especially for the long term. And I was able to achieve that, so it's one of the things I'm actually maybe most proud of. I think I had a long process of getting my mental strength, going. Took me, I'd say, almost 3 years, a good 3 years to figure myself out on a court. How am I happy? I always call it the fire and ice situation. The fire wanting to win, being excited after a good point, and the ice coolness of accepting losses, accepting bad shots, accepting the crowd, the tough circumstances. And I think I found the right balance after 3 years on tour, and I looked in the long term. I hope to play for 15, 20 years, and I just decided that I was going to act that way and behave that way on a tennis court, so I would never lose matches because of my mental strength. And I think I was able to achieve that. Of course, I still get nervous. Of course, sometimes I still don't play very well, but I can trust myself, and it's been really interesting to see my evolution, I think. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of advice I could give, is about how to overcome it, when you're struggling. But I think the passion has to be there. The love for the game has to be there. You have to see that traveling should be exciting. Packing your bags and going to a place should be great. It shouldn't all be bad and disappointing, So you have to see the positives in some tough moments. And when you're on the tennis court, you give it all you have. And, you believe in your team, you believe in your game plan. And you go for it, and sometimes you can win them all. That's what my parents always told me, but you can try your very best, and that's what you always should strive for.
So definitely something for all of us to learn, from the master, I think. a very important thing that if you all heard him well, that he said is about, he used the term managing between fire and ice, and that I think is key for every tennis player. And what he means by fire and ice is, like he said, the hunger, the fire, that's the fire, the feeling energetic, feeling really motivated. And the ice is to be able to stay calm, to stay cool, to stay composed. And for every player, it's important to find that balance and understand how much fire does he need and how much ice does he need and in what situations. I think, we'll speak about this later, but he's actually said that he spent 3 years working on this. And one thing that I would also like to say is that, I have a lot of parents, for example, who obviously, for them and for their tennis players, Roger Federer is a role model. But they want their children just to be like Roger Federer when he's on court. Now, it's very important to understand that every mind, every brain is extremely different. And what every child needs to perform well is also very different. So this balance of fire and ice for every child is going to be different. There will be young tennis players who are more animated on court, who are more energetic, and they may not look like calm and cool like what Roger Federer looks like. But that's okay. Here, the role of the sports psychologist is really how a sports psychologist helps is that it helps this player understand how much fire and how much ice does he need. Before a match, should he feel calm and composed and relaxed, or should he feel energetic and powerful when he enters the court? So to identify this, a sports psychologist, like Ankita was also saying, it's a process. It takes time for the player to be self-aware, and for the psychologist, for the sports psychologist to find a perfect balance and to help how to maintain that perfect balance while on court. Ankita spoke about some techniques that she uses. She spoke about self-talk, meditation, and some other things. And, I'm going to talk about these routines and how they're done on court. But these routines will also vary for every player to player. But these are some of the routines that are used to maintain this fire and ice between every player. So I think that was, that's the main key for that's the main takeaway for me from this video, that, when he spoke about mental strength. So moving ahead, just a second. Okay, so what did Roger Federer really do to transform? He spoke that, his mental strength has been his biggest transformation. So what did he do? And there are some quotes that I have written. I will read it out and then I will explain. So there was a time when I used to throw my racket a lot when I was 16. I was even chased off court because of it. So, he was basically thrown out of the court because he threw his racket. At 17, my family decided that I had to go to a psychologist because I was so angry on court. From that moment, my growth has been constant. His former coach also spoke about this and said that, we put Roger Federer to a sports psychologist who worked with him from 18 to 21 to 22. And this is the same age range that Ankita also spoke about, that this is a very, very crucial and a very, very difficult phase for a player to transit from. So what he did to overcome, what we saw in the earlier video, where he would have temper tantrums, was that he went to a sports psychologist. So if we have players like him do this, why don't we have all the junior players doing some minimum form of mental training? And luckily today in our country, we have people like me who are qualified and trained sports psychologists. So I would definitely urge all and encourage all to seek mental training and sports psychology for your players. A lot of players speak about this. Djokovic, for example, also speaks about how he used mental training. Unfortunately, like I said, when I played tennis, we didn't have any mental trainers. We didn't have any sports psychologists. So maybe the accessibility was very limited. But today, players can start mental training at the age of 10, 12, which is the best age actually to start, because, like I said, you're not only working on your mental hurdles then. What the sports psychologist did with Roger Federer, for example, was she helped him overcome his mental hurdles, which was what we saw on court. But let's say if he went to a psychologist or a sports psychologist when he was 12 or 13 years of age, he probably would have had a strong mental makeup right from then, so that this didn't happen on court. This is just an example. So what mental training does is that it helps you build a strong mental framework and a strong mental makeup, related to physical fitness. So, you don't have your players do fitness or, focus on their body only when they get injured, or only when they are not physically fit. They do their fitness every day and they get better and better regardless of whether there is an injury or not, or whether, they're unfit or not. So mental training is just the same. You train your mind each and every day to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what did this sports psychologist do with Roger Federer. And this is my assessment and my analysis as a sports psychologist. The first key thing, and I think, it's amazing that Ankita also spoke about this, is to help him become self-aware about his own emotions. I have this picture on the screen of Roger Federer crying. And the first most thing for a sports psychologist would have been to identify that he's a very, very emotional person. We see him cry when he wins. We see him cry when he loses also. And, he's spoken about how he's learned to accept his emotions, how he's learned to accept that he also feels negative, also feels pressure. And being self-aware about his own feelings was the first step that the sports psychologist must have taken with him. And then after he has become self-aware, to actually change that and to use the mind to become more controlled, and become more trained, is what must have helped Roger Federer when he went to a sports psychologist. So again, I would reiterate that, if players are talking about it, and, it's great that even Ankita and other Indian players are speaking about it. It will help coaches and younger players take this up in a more comfortable fashion. So do encourage, your players to take up sports psychology very early on, and not wait till a problem occurs and then go to a sports psychologist. So moving on, there are some myths about mental training and sports psychology. And I think, like I said, as coaches, you all are the first point of contact and the most important to inculcate and to emphasize the importance of the mind in sport, even for a tennis player, even though there are sports psychologists. So I think it's important for you all to understand what these myths and what the truth is. So the first thing, like I said, is that, it is not only a curative science where, you do it only when there is a problem. It is a preventive science, meaning that you are preparing your mind for the obstacles that you're going to face. Like Ankita said, there are going to be failures and successes. Maybe during a particular period, there is more failure. But your mind needs to be prepared to accept it and to deal with it well. So it is sports psychology is a preventive science. Another misunderstanding is that it is only something that helps players. Yes, of course, that is the main role, but it also helps parents and coaches. Ankita also, for example, spoke about how she had support from her parents, which was great. But parents can also struggle to understand how they should support, how much they should, what kind of support should they give. So sports psychologists can also counsel and consult with parents, and it is also beneficial for coaches. And for example, understanding your own, becoming self-aware again for your own coaching. What your coaching style is, how do you identify different personalities? How do you tailor yourself for these different personalities? Does a particular player need technical advice before a match, or does that player need more mental advice before a match? So sports psychology can also help coaches. I think the third thing is that it is not only for elite players. We only hear elite players talk about it, which is great. But mental training is actually to be begun for young players. And like Ankita said, it does not have to be full-fledged, full program, but to begin small exercises, small activities, like she said, spoke about meditation, or, even in Western sports psychology, there are breathing techniques. She spoke about breathing. So it needs to be started at a very young. The older the player gets, the more difficult it becomes to integrate mental training in an everyday practice. So the earlier the better. And I think another important thing I think it's important for coaches to know is that there is a difference between a clinical psychologist or a mainstream psychologist. For example, Roger Federer also went to a sports psychologist. Ankita Raina also went to a sports psychologist. A sports psychologist trains himself or herself for understanding the mind of a player. Of course, the basis is psychology, but it has to be something the sports psychologist has to understand the game and has to understand the player. We go through years of training before coming in contact with the player. Unfortunately, in India, we have people who work as mental conditioning coaches, mental trainers, which is fine. They also can have a positive impact on your players. But often they can't get into the root of the problem. So I think that is the difference, and it's important that as coaches, you put your players in contact with qualified and trained sports psychologists. Do ask for their pedigree, do ask how they are trained and what they have done. I think there is no harm in that. We trust ourselves, our physical selves, with professional doctors. You don't go to a chemist often and say, I'm really suffering and give me a medicine. You will trust yourself with a trained physiotherapist, a trained doctor. Similarly, trust your players with trained psychologists. Like you trust your body with a trained doctor, trust the mind with a trained sports psychologist. And also, one important reason why I say that and why I'm emphasizing on this is that the mind is very complex, and it's very important that the sports psychologist obviously helps athletes and players and coaches and parents, but not harm the athlete mentally in any way. Or the process of mental training should not be negative, or it should not be detrimental for the player, and that's the key. So again, like I said, it's not to say that no one else can have an impact. Yes, they can, but there is a difference in going through the training and not having the training. So I think these are some myths, and now I hope you all have understood what the truth about mental training is. It needs to be started early, around the age of 10, 12, depending on the sport. For tennis, 10, 12 is an appropriate age. For example, when it comes with chess, we work with children who are 7 or 8 years old, because the sport starts specializing very early on, and so on and so forth with other games as well. So it's important to understand the game really well. So moving on, let's come back to tennis and let's come back to mental training. So what should a player do before playing a match or before entering a competition? We all know, and I'm sure as coaches, you all very well know that a player should do exactly what he does in practice. And only then can a practice performance can be compared to a match performance. I've heard this very often from players, and I'm sure you all have also heard this, that a lot of players or parents will come and say that, he plays or she plays really well in a practice situation. He's amazing. We see so much talent, but we can't see that in a match situation, in an actual tournament. Now, why is that? Okay, it's not because the player is not, good skill wise. He has good strokes, good serve maybe. It may not be that he's physically unfit. He may be fit. But the difference can be that, he's probably not mentally trained and mentally strong, and that is why he's not performing well. A lot of times, like I said, that players come to us after losing in, say, 4 consecutive tournaments and say that, we've tried everything, we've put in more hours, we've done this, we've done that, but now, we feel it's something to do with the mind. I would like to, make you all aware that don't hesitate from talking to a sports psychologist or introducing your child to a sports psychologist when you see such trends, when you see a slump. Often it can help better than actually spending more time on court. And I think it's important that, y'all are, again, I'm emphasizing that y'all are the first point. Your role is the most important role. And it's important that you use us as the support system to get better and better of your players. So coming back, so if the player is not doing something before his practice situations and practice sessions, we are not going to be able to see that performance in a match situation. So what is it that a player does before a practice session? And this is my general observation from so many academies, that tennis academies that I've been to, or something that maybe that I also did. So what a player typically does is he goes to the court, he or she may change his shoes, he'll warm up. If they do some TheraBand exercises, they'll do that, or maybe take a sip of water, and then they go onto the court and start warming up on the court. So are they getting physically ready? The answer is yes. Okay, but are they getting mentally ready? The answer is probably not. What are they doing to get mentally ready? And this is what we're going to try and understand in the next 15-20 minutes. How do they get mentally ready? So, before we go on and understand how do they get mentally ready, let's understand why do they need to get mentally ready before they get onto the court. Okay, I would say that, a tennis player's mind is like a mobile phone. I'm just going to give you this example. Okay, so, like when you use a mobile phone, you're using different apps. You use your, say, WhatsApp, you use Facebook, maybe your gaming app, you're using different apps. And then you get a phone call and you're speaking on the phone. Even when you're speaking on the phone, or even when you've just kept your phone aside, those apps are still running. And while those apps are still running, okay, the battery from your phone is getting drained. Okay, you may not see those apps in the front, but the battery is draining. Okay, and the mind of the tennis player is just like that. Before he enters a match or comes to a practice session, okay, say before a match, he's talking to other players, asking how they've done, they've looked at the draw, they're talking to parents are talking to players. Maybe while going to a practice session, they're thinking about other things that they've done in the day, and they are just warming up physically and getting onto the court. So all these things that are happening before they get onto the court are running in the subconscious mind, like those apps are running. So even though the player may not realize it, the mental energy or the mental battery is draining, and the player needs to do something to charge it and to close those apps. And that is why mental training is important. And that is why spending 5 minutes or 10 minutes before getting onto the court on preparing mentally becomes very, very important. Yes. So how do we do that? How does a player do that? Moving on. What a player needs to do is move the focus. So, like we spoke about different situations, they may speak to someone, they may, talk to someone, look at something, watch someone else play. So the focus is external. Okay, they need to change that external focus to internal focus. So they need to change their mind from being public, being available to everything, to change the mind to being private. So just for themselves. Okay. In the situation when the player of the mind is open, it's called open monitoring, means your mind is open to anything. It can monitor anything, it can look at anything. But before entering the court, it needs to have a focused attention. So you can see on the screen here, the focus is in all 4 directions, whereas they need to change it to focus being at one point in the mind. Okay. So, I have some examples here of what players may think of. It's really hot today. It's not my day, something is hurting, my parents maybe, what are my parents going to think? Is everybody watching me? There can be all sorts of, open thoughts. Okay. And what are focused thoughts? Okay. They are the player's goals, or what he wants to do in that match or that practice session. Does he need to focus on something in particular while playing? So it could be maybe something simple as the ball toss, change in that, or change in the grip. So focus, what technique does he need to focus on? What is his strategy? How is he going to play this match? How is he going to build up his points? So, focusing on that and focusing on his own strengths as a player. So what do I do well? My forehand cross court is strong, for example. I can volley well, so go ahead and volley. So what are my strengths to be able to play well today? So, the public thoughts, all of those on the right hand side, need to be changed to the private thoughts, or focused thoughts. Okay. And there are very simple ways in mental training that players can use to be able to achieve this, and that is what we're going to talk about now. Okay. So what are the key mental skills or mental qualities that are important for tennis? And I'm sure most of you all may also be aware about it, but I'm going to tell you how to develop it. So intensity control, or a lot of you may also known as that arousal or emotional control. That's the same thing. Concentration, of course, is very important. Motivation and confidence. These are some key things, and we've heard even Ankita speak about some of them right now. And this is important for a tennis player when he or she is on the court playing. Now, how do we develop these qualities in a player in a very simple way? What I'm going to do, I'm going to explain this to you all, and in 2 minutes, I'm going to play a mental routine for you. I've developed a mental routine for tennis. I want all of y'all as coaches to close your eyes, put yourself in a situation of a player, and go through that mental routine. Listen to it. Okay, this mental routine is very basic. It's short. It's simple, so that every player can do it. There are ways in which you develop it. For that, of course, you need to understand the player or take help of a sports psychologist. But this basic mental routine that I have put into place, every player can do it. What we are doing in this mental routine is we are helping the player manage his intensity. So the fire and ice that Fedor spoke about, we're helping the player concentrate. We're helping the player be motivated, and we are using self-talk, which Ankita spoke about. So affirmations, she emphasized on that. So we're using that, and we are helping the player become confident before he plays through visualization. Yes. So for intensity control, or for emotional control, what we are using is breathing, which is also, for example, what Ankita did, and she focused on that. So controlled breathing. For concentration, we are going to use something in sports psychology. We call it an anchor, which helps the athlete get into a particular frame of mind. So we are going to use the word ready. Okay. Then we are going to use the words positive, focused, and relaxed in the mental routine. And in the mental routine that you listen to, you will also see some tennis scenarios. Again, like I said, they're simple tennis scenarios. One of it is a pre-game scenario, so pre-practice session or a pre-match scenario. And the second is a during match scenario. Okay, you can add players actually. Of course, this needs to be done with the help of a sports psychologist. But by understanding what needs to go in, these scenarios can change from player to player. Anyway, we'll go through what a basic mental routine can be like, where we're working at one go, we're working on all these 4 things. Okay. Again, like I said, this is something to be done every day. Okay. It's also something, for example, that Djokovic does. Okay. He uses things like meditation, visualization, controlled breathing to follow so he follows a 15-minute mental preparation. Okay. And he says that with the 15 minutes of mental preparation, I lose fear, I lose anxiety, I lose stress. So I'm sure if someone like him can spend 15 minutes, I'm sure all your players can spend at least 4 to 5 minutes every day after their, before their warm-up, before this is to be done before their physical warm-up, can spend 5 minutes every day on, spending time on getting mentally ready. Okay. So I'm just going to explain each of these 4 things to you a little bit, and then we will listen to the audio clip, and I want you all to do the mental routine. Okay, so why is controlled breathing so important? I think Ankita also spoke about it a little bit. What mental routine, what controlled breathing does is that it regulates your heartbeat, your heart rate. So the amount of blood that your heart is pumping out every second, every millisecond actually. What happens, I'm sure, like we spoke earlier, a lot of players feel that their heart is beating faster, and that is because of the pressure or the stress that you feel before a match. What controlled breathing does is that it regulates the amount of blood flow that your body parts are reaching, your hands are getting, your feet is getting, your brain is getting. And controlled breathing therefore helps in better hand-eye coordination, better concentration, better focus, better decision making. So it's a very, very key and a very, very important skill that players need to learn. They can also do their controlled breathing in the morning, just like Ankita said, just on its own. So not do it as a whole routine. So not the whole audio clip, but just the breathing 8 times in the morning before they have their breakfast. So it's a very, very simple routine to follow. All they need to do is they need to focus on their breathing and make sure that their breathing is slow, deep, and regular. Okay. Shallow breathing, for example, is a symptom or gives us an indication of the fact that you're getting a little nervous. So every day in the morning, 8 times before breakfast, they focus on their breathing, inhale from the nose, exhale from the mouth, 8 breaths, slow, deep, and regular. Okay, we are going to use this in our mental routine today, so you will get an understanding of how it is done. So the key is that, when you focus on your breath, when you have control over your breath, is when you have control over your mind. Okay, we are all breathing right now. Okay, but it's not controlled. Okay, it is not focused. So when you focus on your breathing is when your mind is focused. Okay, so controlled breathing is the first thing. Self-talk, which also Ankita spoke about, that she uses positive affirmations. Every player has negative thoughts. I've put a quote of Roger Federer. I think this was while he was playing a match with Paul Schreiber at the Rotterdam Open, and I'm just going to read it out. So he said that you see negativity flying around you, and you're like, I'm down 6-4, I've messed up, I should have done this, I should have done that, and now I've just got to get lucky and I'm at the mercy of the opponent. It's a really bad feeling. So if someone like him can have these thoughts, it's okay for every player to have these negative thoughts, but the key is to change these thoughts into affirmative or positive thoughts through the use of self-talk. So in the audio clip, in the mental routine that I'm going to give you all today, we're also using positive self-talk. So we will be using the words ready for concentration, and positive, we'll also be using the words positive, focused, and relaxed. Okay. And let me tell you all that, of course, after, even after having these thoughts, Federer went on to win the game. Win the match, the game and the match. So it is possible to change your thoughts while on court, and players need to be taught how to do that. And that is what we will learn in the mental routine today. Okay. The fourth thing, I'm sure all of y'all must have also heard about this technique. It is a very widely used technique by all, elite players. Sachin Tendulkar, for example, used it every single night of his playing career. We've had so many players speak about it. We were in fact speaking to Vishnu Vardhan a couple of days back, and he spoke about using visualization. And another interesting, I'm just going back to what I was speaking earlier, and another interesting thing that Vishnu Vardhan said the other day was that, going to a sports psychologist is like going to a cardiologist when you have a heart problem, as against going to a general physician. It's important for a player that the sports psychologist understands the game very well, because everything, all these mental routines that are going to be built is going to be built on the basis of the game, of understanding the game. So again, that becomes very important. The visualization especially, because it has, like I said, it will have different tennis scenarios. So what visualization helps is in confidence and self-belief. It's a very well established fact. I think the good thing for tennis is that, even though mental training and sports psychology in India is very new, I've been doing this for the last 10 years, but it's still very new. Mental training in tennis has been established in the Western world, especially in Europe, about 30 to 40 years back. So there are very well established techniques, and there is a lot of research done to help sports psychologists, trained sports psychologists will know what works in tennis, what are the techniques that are used for tennis players. So good thing for tennis is that mental training in tennis is actually quite evolved. It's not as new as we think. It's new in India, but the knowledge in sports psychology for tennis or mental training for tennis is very well established. So we should utilize it to our best for our Indian tennis players. Okay, so coming back to visualization, it improves confidence and self-belief. it can be used before competition and during competition, during a match, before a match. And the visualization script can be changed, it can be monitored, it can be tailored from player to player. So moving on ahead, I think I have 5 minutes to kind of wrap this up, and we'll take some questions. Let's listen to the audio clip. It's a small 3.5 minute audio clip. I'll try and see if how this can be shared. I would encourage all your players to start doing this as a mental warm up before they do their physical warm up. Okay, so I would also recommend all of you all to close your eyes and actually go through this mental routine and see how you all feel about it. I'm going to play it now.
Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Imagine that you are preparing to play. You are feeling positive, focused, and relaxed. Focus on your breathing. Notice the way in which you breathe. Is it fast or is it slow? Is it shallow or is it deep? Make your breathing slow, deep, and regular. Your body becomes relaxed and your mind becomes positive and focused. You are positive, focused, and relaxed. Focus inside your mind. See yourself at the court. See yourself warming up. And as you warm up, your body feels comfortable and your mind feels ready. You are confident that you will be ready before your match begins. You are confident that you will deal with any distractions that may come up. You are confident you will recover quickly if needed. Your breathing is slow, deep, and regular. Your breathing is slow, deep, and regular. You are positive, focused, and relaxed. The image of this situation on the court slowly fades away from your mind as you breathe comfortably. Now focus in again. Now you are at a critical point in the match. Think about this critical situation. Pause for a moment and consider how you're going to play next. Once you strategize, you prepare, you are ready. You are ready to play. You are ready to play decisively. When you say ready, you are positive, focused, and relaxed. Your breathing is slow, deep, and regular. Your breathing is slow, deep, and regular. The image of this crucial situation slowly fades away from your mind and you're breathing comfortably. Keep focusing on your breathing, slow, deep, and regular. Rub your palms against each other, place them on your eyes, and slowly open your eyes.
Okay, so I hope all of you all have opened your eyes and have tried to do this. So if you all saw that, sorry, just a second. Like Ankita said, that it's very difficult to explain what, mental training is, or what, becoming self-aware, or, what meditating is, but it feels great. And that is what is key with mental training. It gives players a feel-good factor. It helps them feel positive and confident. If you all saw, I hope that you all did this and you all felt good and understood what a mental routine can be like. like I said, this is a basic mental routine that any player can do. As the player gets advanced, of course, the mental routine also needs to kind of become advanced. Mental routines also need to become advanced, and slightly more time needs to be spent on it. But like you all saw that in this script we use in this routine, I use the word slow, deep, and regular breathing. Okay, so that needs to be focused on. Say ready, to concentrate and focus. So if a player feels that he's getting distracted, ask him to use the word ready. Okay, it will only help if they do this as a warm-up routine. So not only when they go onto the court and say ready. And to say positive, focused, and relaxed when they feel pressure, or if if they're at a crucial point in a match, or while in a game. So we use some of these words in this mental routine. I hope you all got a good experience of what a mental routine can be like. It's a very simple and a quick thing for all players to start doing. So I think quick few takeaways about mental training. It's a key aspect in tennis. It cannot be neglected. I know it's not observable like other things, other technical training, physical training, but it's very, very important. It not only helps in overcoming mental hurdles, but it also enhances the tennis performance. A warm-up routine or a pre-performance routine is essential, which we just kind of went through right now. Remember that your player needs to focus in before he goes onto the court. Develop a mental routine. Take help of a sports psychologist to develop a mental routine for your players to follow every day. Intensity control or managing emotions, concentration, self-talk, visualization are the key mental skills for tennis. There are a lot more, but these are the basic things that a player around the age of 13, 14 should definitely be doing. So these are just some key takeaways, and to summarize what we learned today. I hope you all enjoyed today's session. I would like to also say that my through our organization Samiksha, in my very early career, I got a lot of opportunities from a lot of you coaches to kind of work with tennis academies, and for example Nandan sir, Nitin sir, and that has really helped me to become better at being a sports psychologist in tennis. So thank you Aida, Sai, and also of course Balu sir for giving me this opportunity today. And if you all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer your questions now.
Yeah, thank you, Janaki. Thanks a lot for helping us understand the concepts of mental training. This basic idea, only coaches can actually relate to it, why it's important and how it's done, and also the importance of getting the child to practice certain mental training techniques early. They don't have to wait till they become 20 and start to, they can like 12, 13 and they can transformation stages, they can start developing. So by the time 18, 20, actually know what works for them. Because a lot of
sorry, sir, I don't know if it's me, but I think your voice is breaking.
Balu, your voice is breaking a bit.
Oh, okay.
Internet problem.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear or not hear at all?
Now it's better.
Yeah. No, I was saying how important it is to start training at an young age, so that by the time they're 18, 19, they know what works for them. Like,
yes.
There is no one size fits all, right? Each one technique, particular technique is more appropriate and gives results. So thank you so much. I mean, it was well put. I mean, the reason I would say it was nice is because it was well explained. And this is a topic which is not easy to understand. It's all over the place. Like the initial picture you showed, I mean, this is like this everything else but the tree.
Yes.
So to help us get to the tree and the related aspects of the player, if the player is concerned, it was very well done. And I hope more sessions from you will help us in the future. And,
I would love to.
For the attendees, I mean, I think the last slide had her details. So anybody who wants to talk to or meet Dr. Janaki, or you have the contact details with her, I'm sure she can help you with your players, because I mean, as a coach, we have our limitations, and we are only, we can only be aware of what is required. But a specialist is required for certain things, so you have to bring in the specialist. I mean, we cannot be everything, right? We cannot be a specialist of everything. We can teach tennis, but certain aspects of the mind and psychology-related aspects, so you need help.
Yes.
And when we have people with so much experience and qualification, we must make use of it. Janki, I have a question.
Yes.
This is related to the girls, right? I mean,
Yes.
like, they go through adolescence, a lot of hormonal changes.
Yes.
So can you touch on, the word of advice to the coaches, and also how to handle, and from the girl side, what they experience?
Yes, yes. So I think, it's very important that to understand that after, probably around the age of 12 or 13, working with a female tennis player should actually be very different to working with a male tennis player. I think one of the key reasons being that, girls tend to be very emotional. And for coaches, I think the most important thing with girls after a particular age becomes the kind of communication that you have with with a female tennis player. Trust becomes very important. So they need to know the why, typically behind why they've been asked to do something. If, for example, if you tell a 14-year-old boy to say, if you tell him that, hit 100 serves, he may do it without feeling anything in his mind. He'll be like, okay, if my coach is telling me, I should do it. But if the same thing is told to a female tennis player, she needs to know why those 100 balls need to be hit, so that she's convinced and she knows the effort, the reason behind the effort. So I think the communication with a female tennis player becomes very important. The feedback becomes very important. I'll tell you all a simple tip, and I often use this with girls myself who I work with. Boys are much better at taking critical feedback, and girls can tend to be very sensitive. So, using something called a sandwich approach. And what I mean by sandwich approach is that you say something positive. So even if, you want to tell what she's done wrong, but you say that, you've been putting in effort today. So you say something positive. Then you say that, but you need to correct your technique because, the ball is not landing where it should land, for example. So you're actually telling her what the problem is, and then end it with a positive feedback again and say that, I'm sure you'll do better tomorrow. So, what you want to get across is the negative part where she's not doing well. And this was a really simple example, but I'm sure the feedback sometimes can be quite critical. So, you say something, so like a sandwich, there's a bread at the top, the vegetables in the middle and the bread at the bottom. So the bread at the top is something positive. Then you can say the negative or the critical bit, and then end it with a positive again. So I think the way you're communicating with a female player becomes very important. They are not very comfortable with a transactional relationship with the coach, meaning that, okay, she goes there every day, she spends 2 hours, she trains, and then it's all over, and then she comes back. She needs something more than that. She needs a connection. She needs to be connected with the coach, and that becomes very important. Also, there's a lot to actually learn about how to work with female players, and maybe Balu sir, we can actually do a session on working with female tennis players. But I think communication I would say is the key after a certain age with female players.
Yeah, it's very challenging. I have some experience.
Yeah, their distractions are different. The emphasis of peers and their friends is a lot more than even boys. So that needs to be taken care of and managed well. So yes, the challenges of female tennis players can be quite different to male tennis players.
No, you just spoke about distractions, and actually there was a question from one of the attendees. With the social media and all those things now, I mean, how does a coach handle, help the child get off the distraction? That was a question asked.
Yes. So I think, screen time and being on social media is definitely something that all parents, coaches are experiencing. And as sports psychologists, we are also actually spending more time on that than actual mental training on court. But I think the key is to help, the key is discipline, like Ankita spoke about. and this discipline comes in from the age of 8 and 9, and that's important that coaches and parents are able to emphasize discipline in a child. And for example, if I may give this example, Balu sir, when I used to play with Balu sir, and even if any one of us reached 5 minutes late, I knew we were taking a gazillion rounds before we could get onto the court, or we could even send home. And I think that was amazing, because that set, that instilled discipline in us. So I'm not saying, it has the same thing, but I'm just talking about the concept discipline. So I think discipline is key. The other thing, like I said, is that yes, there are going to be distractions, but before they get onto the court, they need to understand how to switch off from those distractions. So to be able to switch on and switch off is very, very important, which a player needs to learn, and again can be done through mental training. But we also spoke about that in today's presentation, where a lot of things are going on, and to be able to distract, a mental routine is important, and it can help players at the basic level. So I would encourage players to at least start doing that, to be able to be focused when they get onto the court.
Yeah, thank you. And Suresh?
Yes. Hi, Janki. A fantastic session.
Thank you, sir.
One of the tutors, and he's going to give a presentation tomorrow, Gary O'Brien. He sent a message, asked me to tell you this. Tell her this for me, buddy. She was absolutely spot on. Beautiful session. Janki, you hit the nail on the head.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So we have
Thank you for the feedback. That's really helpful and motivating for me too.
So we have a couple of questions. There's an anonymous attendee. He's asking how many sessions would require for a sports psychologist to understand about a player?
So again, from player to player, it will differ. But to understand about the player, for a sports psychologist can take up to 3 to 4 sessions. So about 2 months period. Okay. But mental training is a process. A player needs to give at least 6 months to be able to see and understand the impact, or even for the parent to understand the impact of mental training, or the impact that it has on the player. It's like any skill. Your mind is a muscle. You're working on a muscle, and you're growing the muscle. So if it's like saying that if you go to the gym, or if you do fitness for 2 days in a week, or once in 2 months, is that going to be enough? The answer is no. Are you going to understand whether you're getting fitter or not? The answer is no. And the same thing about mental training. It's a process, and as through the process also, the sports psychologist starts understanding more and more. Just like the physical challenges of a sport change, like when you're playing, when even Federer spoke about this, that when you're 12 and 13 and 14, your physical demands are different. When you're 18, 19, 20, your physical demands are different. And it's the same with mental demands also. Like, for example, social media distractions. This is something a player will kind of be affected by more in between say 12 to 17. But the mental demand after that is going to be something completely different. So the mind also needs to be worked on constantly. It's not like magic, and it's not like, oh, I go to a sports psychologist and it's a fix. It's not like that. It's like any other form of training. You need to work on it on a regular basis. But about 3 sessions should be good enough for a sports psychologist to understand exactly what needs to be worked on, and what the process of mental training for that particular player should be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Janki, it's interesting you remembered those days, because a lot of children I have worked with in the past always talk about this. And in my session, I had mentioned about being consistent, and I still do that. But
yes.
It's happy to know it's been useful to you in life. So
yes,
that gives
definitely.
me a lot of satisfaction.
If I remember it today, it has had an impact on me, and I'm sure coaches have the same impact on every other child that they're working with.
Yes.
So yes, thank you.
It's true. Yeah, and when you're talking about training kids, say like 13, 14-year-old kids, I mean, do you include parents also in the session sometimes? And
yes,
the reason also, I have one more question, whether you include parents in the session, and also do the parents have a role to play when they are home? Like when
very good question, sir. Yes, we do work extensively with parents, especially parents of young tennis players. Especially the first few interactions are with the parents, and after that, the work is with the player, but the parent is in the loop. We will speak to them independently in their independent session. So the parent will come independently for a session, not with the child. I think so. Yes, the parents are in contact with us and working with us, and I feel that a lot of work actually needs to be done with the parents, especially with younger children, because all their beliefs are getting instilled into the child. So it's important that their mindset, their belief, their approach is positive. And that's why we do focus on working with parents. We also work with them one-on-one. And the second question that you had about parents' role at home, I think majority of their role and their support has to be at home and not on the side of the court. That is, all players I've worked with more than 2,000 players, and if 2,000 players say that that's a distraction, then it is a distraction. So their support has to be in terms of emotional support, financial support, and getting them from here and there. I know it sounds like all the dirty work, but unfortunately that is the support that the child needs from you. They are getting all the technical support, all the tactical support from the coaches. So in fact, a child gets confused if, say the coach is saying something else, the sports psychologist is saying something else, the parent is saying something else, and the child absolutely has no idea, or the player has no idea about what exactly he or she should do. So I think, yes, the parent has to support at home, look after the nutrition, follow the instructions of a nutritionist if they're going to one, provide emotional support, make sure that they're well, they're recovering well physically and mentally at home. So I think the biggest role that they have is at home and not at the academy or the tennis court.
Yeah, I think parents support, and also parents understand the demands of the sport. But
Yes.
I think with kids, a lot of times it's the pressure from the parents, like
Yes.
expectations to win.
I think Sir Rohan said this very well, that if you send your child to a school, you're not checking if the teacher is teaching my child history properly and maths properly. You're trusting the school. That's why you've taken admission, and your child is going inside, and you leave it at that. So the same should be for sport, and I think that was an excellent point that he made yesterday, that the same trust should be going into within the coaches and the academies, because like I said, if the parent believes and has the trust in the coach, that is when a child believes and has the trust in the coach. So I think that role that they play is extremely important.
Yeah. Suresh.
Absolutely. Janki, there is Vic Tennis asking this question.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Janki. Can you elaborate arousal? I read that you should be 130 to 140 BPM for good performance. Please explain.
So again, like I said, I would emphasize that the figures that you have read are correct, but they can differ from player to player. Arousal meaning the best emotional state that you require. Now that best emotional state or the arousal state can differ from player to player, and the player has to understand. And I think, like I said, that Federer spoke about this really well, that he's found a perfect balance of that fire and ice. If you're very less aroused, okay, then you're not motivated, you're lazy, okay, you really don't care about what's happening, you just go in there and play because you're used to doing it. If you're extremely aroused, then it can lead to taking a lot of pressure and stress. So on this side is feeling lack of motivation and feeling lazy. On this side is feeling a lot of pressure. So you have to be somewhere in between this, and that between, the figure that you said is exactly in between. But for every player, it can be a little bit on this side or a little bit on this side. And with a sports psychologist, a player will typically understand where he needs to lie. So that basically what arousal is. It is a continuum where on this side it's extreme state of relaxed state, extreme relaxed state, and on this side of the continuum is extreme state of pressure. And you need to be somewhere in between and identify what that in between is for you. I hope that kind of clarified what arousal is and where a player needs to be.
You just spoke about arousal and how they need to practice. There was a question from Coach Shahul. He says, players practice, like in the practice also you play 30, 40 and different situations.
Yes, yes.
But his question is, why do they then struggle in matches?
Sorry, sir, your voice broke, so I didn't hear you after.
No, the question is like when you play practice sets, you're used to the situation like 30, 40 break points and things like that.
Yes.
But then when you go into a match, players are still struggling, right? I mean, his question is, why do they choke in a match?
So playing in a simulation situation, which you're saying that you will play in different situations and you will simulate that in a practice situation, definitely does help. But in a practice session, you don't have the other pressures. You don't have maybe you don't have the crowd watching you, which may put pressure on you, or your parent is not expecting something from you, or your coach is not expecting something from you. So there are other pressures in an actual match situation, and the player also needs to learn to deal with that. Let me give you an example of Michael Phelps, who's the most B-medaled Olympian that we have on the planet. And I'll tell you what his sports psychologist and his coach would do. They would try and think of all the other pressures. Of course, it's still not the same, but that's the best that you can do. For example, they would set the clock 15 minutes ahead, and he would feel like he's late for his training, and he would have that pressure. Or they would loosen his goggles, and when he would swim, the water would go into the goggle. And imagine if that happened in an actual competition, the amount of pressure that the player would feel. And they would do these kind of small things to instill pressure in a practice situation as much as possible, so that he gets used to handling the stress and the pressure. The pressures or the stress may change, but the player just gets used to handling the pressure. So yes, these simulated situations do help, but that's not the only thing. It's really, you really have to understand why else is it that the player is still not able to perform, and then try and help him further.
Thank you. Suresh?
Yeah, thank you. We have a question from Matan Raj. On days with multiple matches, how often should the routine be done? Are there any additional practices for these days?
So the routine needs to be done before every match, just like you would warm up before every match. It's a mental warm up. Just like you physically warm up, you do your mental warm up. But that's it. You don't need to do anything extra till the player has actually learned. So this is not the only thing. Players also do a lot of other things. For example, post-match. We actually didn't get time to speak about this today. But there is something that a player does post-match also. So that he recovers not only physically but also mentally before going on to the next match. So there are other routines also, but your player needs to learn them properly before actually just directly implementing them in an actual tournament. But this mental warm-up routine that we did today is something that needs to be done before every match.
Right. Just one more question. There's a Raghav Jaisinghani. He's a player who's active in the national circuit. He's asking a question. Can you please elaborate a bit on how switching on and switching off is done before and after match or practice?
Yes. So again, there are a lot of different techniques to switch on and switch off. Let me tell you, that's the case with anything. So even for breathing, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's breathing techniques, diaphragmatic breathing. For concentration, there are 10 different techniques. The sports psychologist has to understand what is going to work for the player and then ask him to do something, ask him to follow the routine. So I won't be able to give you one exact routine that everybody should do, because that's like giving the same medicine to everybody who wants to work on something. It can't be done like that. But there are different routines. I'll tell you all a simple routine maybe based on what we did today. So breathing can also be done to work on switching on and switching off. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say that a player starts playing a game, it's love all, and then the score is 15-30. And then the player is going to switch off and switch on after every point. Okay, so when it's let's say it's love 15. Okay, the player will take one deep breath. Okay, and that when he takes that one deep breath, he's switching off. Okay, and then he says ready, which also what we've used. So a breath to switch off, say ready to switch on, and then play the next point. Then let's say it's 15 all. Then again he takes one deep breath, okay, says ready, plays the next point. So breathing also helps you focus and defocus. Then let's say the score is whatever, 40-30. Then he takes one deep breath, says ready, plays the next point. So maybe your players can try doing this, but like I said again, it will really depend on the player to player. But you know, you all already know some of these things that we did, so maybe you can try this.
Good. Thank you, Janki. Balu, you next.
Yeah, my question actually, somebody, Suresh Balraj has asked an interesting question. How do you handle a player when he or she does not show any kind of emotion on court?
So that's fine, that not every player is going to show emotion. It's, you have to understand the player and understand what the emotional competency of that particular player is. It is not necessary that every player who wins a point should say, come on, and you know, do that before he goes on to the next point. It's not necessary. If it is required after understanding the player, if you feel that that's going to help the player, maybe you can ask him and train him to do that. But it's not a compulsion that every player has to be really activated and energetic and, you know, being really animated on court. It's not necessary. If he shows while on court, if he's not being very expressive, that's all right. It also depends on the age of the player. If the player is young, I would suggest that don't push it too much, don't change anything. You know, see what happens over a year or two, see how he performs in his own emotional state. Okay, every time you don't have to make a change with everything. If he's doing well with the way he is, why do you want to change it? Don't change it. So I would say that it's okay if he's, you know, if he's generally not very animated on court and, you know, calm and, you know, not showing too many emotions on court.
Whatever works for that player. Right?
Yes, yes.
Basically, it comes down
yes,
to that.
absolutely, yes.
Okay. The answer to my question, they want a little bit more clarification. They want to know what is shallow breathing, what is deep breathing, and is it possible for you to demonstrate?
So shallow breathing is like, let's say when you run, okay, when you say you've done a sprint or you've run, you start breathing heavily. It's breathing heavily, like when you're tired, that's shallow breathing. But you can also breathe in a shallow way when you feel a lot of pressure. Okay. You know, think about a time which puts pressure on you. Maybe it's standing in front of a huge crowd, or if it's before an important match, or if someone is watching you, if someone is, you know, if you're going to be selected, whether or getting a scholarship based on whether they watch this performance or not. So you can feel pressure, and in that pressure situation, you can start breathing shallowly, which means heavy breathing, faster breathing. And deep breathing is where firstly you are focusing on your breathing. So your breath going in and your breath going out. So you're controlling your breathing, not like what we are, you know, we are all breathing right now, but we are not controlling it. We are not even paying attention to it. So, you know, taking a deep breath through your nose, focusing on it, and releasing that deep breath slowly through your mouth. So that is taking a deep breath. What a deep breath does, you'll feel this. So when you take a deep breath, your stomach will expand. It's almost like your lungs are full, and that's what you want to do through your breathing. Okay, so that's only when you take a deep breath, the maximum blood kind of flows to your body, and that's what you're trying to do through this deep breathing. When you're breathing shallowly, your brain, your body is not getting enough blood supply. So shallow breathing is heavy breathing, like when you're tired. It may not be this extreme, but I'm just demonstrating so that you understand. And deep breathing is slow breathing, controlled breathing, breathing through your nose and slowly breathing through your mouth. Yes, I hope that
yeah, that was crystal clear.
Yeah.
Balu, over to you.
Yeah. Janki, some, like, you know, there was a query asking the audio clip you played in the end,
yes,
where they can, you know, get that clip to be used. That
yes,
was one question.
yes.
And then the other one is like, you know, is it possible to do online sessions for mental training?
Yes, definitely. In fact, in this situation, online sessions is the only way ahead. And yes, I'll be more than happy to share the audio clip. So my email address is on the email address. My phone number is on the screen. Our website is also on the screen, and you'll get all our contact details there. So please feel free to contact me if you need the audio clip, or you want to do any online sessions. That can definitely be done. We're doing that with coaches, parents, and players. So everyone's doing online sessions. So yes, both can be done.
Okay.
Last question, Janki. Sorry, Suresh, I'll just ask
no
this.
problem.
There was a question earlier in your presentation. It was about how do you train people with disabilities, like, hearing disability and things like, there are tennis players physically challenged and
Yes.
special players. So some words on
Yes.
that.
Sure. So yes, it's very important. I think they probably also need this, and it's very essential for them to be mentally strong and to feel mentally tough. Their challenges can be quite different. However, in today's day, there are a lot of methods that can be used to work with disability athletes. There are a lot of online platforms that can be used, which make it easy for them to access access mental training. And we use all these platforms to work with disability players. We also work with a lot of Paralympic athletes. And also, just like they have other challenges, but just like just like able-bodied players, they also have their mental challenges, mental hurdles that we spoke about, and they also need to work on that. And mental training really empowers them to do better and better. So yes, we have programs in place for disability sports, and we also do them online. So if you all feel that this is going to benefit someone, so please do let us know, and we'll see what we can do. But yes, mental training will be key for tennis players who are into disabled tennis players also.
Thank you, Janki. Thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge. I'm sure it was useful for all the people listening in the past hour and plus. Suresh, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Janki.
Thank you, Suresh sir. Thank you, Balu sir, once again. I really enjoyed this. I hope everyone else did too.
Yeah, of course. There's been a lot of comments on the chats, and I'm getting a lot of messages. And one of the messages is from the Chief Executive Officer of All India Tennis Association, Mr. Biswadeep Akuri.
Yes.
He spoke in the beginning of, he says that, thank you very much, Janki, on behalf of AITA. Please accept our most sincere thanks for this brilliantly presented session. Very lucid, excellent communication skills.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to AITA as well.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Janki, and great idea, Balu, for bringing her in. All the credit goes to you, I think.
Yes, definitely. 100%.
It goes to the presenter, not me.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Janki.
Thank you.
So, thanks a lot, all attendees, for being there patiently listening to the whole thing. And yes, we all know, the session was so focused on the mental aspects and so clearly explaining so many things that you can do on the tennis court, to help your players become mentally tough. And tomorrow's session, today at least we were able to finish at 11:30 and then take up the questions, which is what we want to do from now on, which we hope we'll be able to. But then, as you know, keeping up the timing is the biggest challenge in these presentations. For tomorrow, we're going to have our friend who's been with us for the last 20 years as a tutor in the Coaches Education Program of India. And he's also the development officer of the Bengal Tennis Association. He's been an expert in working with junior players, especially up to 14. And he's going to talk about strategy and tactics specifically to this age group. So it's going to be a very interesting session. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope to see you all here tomorrow. Bye-bye, take care, and stay safe.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, Balu.
Bye, Suresh.
And thank you for helping me out with this, Balu.
No, not at all. Happy as long as it's a good presentation.
Yeah.
People find it useful. So that's what's important.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Yeah. See ya.